Okay? So what I'm going to do now, this is not to replace you reading directions. This is to answer some of the common questions that people have before you ask them. Common mistakes that people make. So that once you get started, if you get stuck, don't come up and ask. All the information I will have given here and will be in the directions. Okay? The lip prints. The lip prints were found on the Diet Coke can and the Pepsi can. There were other cans, by the way, but those were the two that we found the lip prints on. And what we're looking at, we're going to do two different tests here. We're going to look at the actual print and see which suspects that matches, and we're also going to look at the lipstick. Since the lip prints were left in lipstick, the assumption is the two people drinking the cans were women. So only the female suspects are going to be evaluated in this case. Now that doesn't mean that a man could not be involved. Okay, remember, what is this going to actually tell you when we're done? It's going to tell you who drank the Pepsi can, who drank out of the Pepsi can, who drank out of the Diet Coke can. That doesn't necessarily tell you who did the crime. But it is useful in the sense that we'd assume someone's not going to leave a half-drank can of Diet Coke there for a week. We'd assume that it maybe would be thrown out at the end of the day or something like that. So it's fairly current stuff, which might put certain people in the office at a certain time. It may or may not contribute to your story. That depends on some of the other results you got. But what we're looking for when we match the lip print is we're looking at these individual grooves. Just like we looked at the friction ridges on fingerprints and toe prints, we're going to look at the individual grooves here and see how they match up. And they are unique to an individual just like handprints are, or fingerprints. Now, the prints were left on the Coke and Pepsi can, Diet Coke and Pepsi can. Obviously, they don't look the same as all the suspects. We only have which lip, upper or lower? Lower lip here. That would be the one you would expect to see when they press their lip against the can to tip it. We have all of the female suspects, plus we have head of honcho. We'd want to eliminate or at least know whether or not she drank out of one of the cans, and we got her lip print from a Kleenex that she dabbed her mouth with, like women sometimes do with lipstick, and was thrown away. So here are all the suspects, female suspects, lip prints, including head of honcho. And what your first task is to find the match. Who matches up with the Diet Coke can? Who matches up with the Pepsi can? When you do the matching part, what you will do is you will connect the suspect's print with the unknown print. We don't know what that is. It was on the Diet Coke can. And when you connect them with that line will split and form 4 arrows at the end. There's a sample of this on the back door. So if you forget how you're supposed to do this, look there. Remember, a large part of your grade in this class has been following directions. The handwriting analysis, not so hot. Okay? More than half of you didn't get the right person. I'll just tell you. That next to last question says who wrote the ransom note. Okay? If you have -2 there, you got the wrong person. And that might really change your conclusions. Okay? Also, you might have been -2 if you didn't write in a complete sentence. But make sure you follow the directions. Some of you lost points on the handwriting analysis because you didn't set up that little tracing sheet the way I showed you. I put a sample on the door. I noticed some of you went back and looked at it, others did not. So when you do the match, you find 4 distinct points that match on the suspect print with the one found on the can. Okay? And the line splits, branches off, and each branch is numbered. Now, when you're done with this, it may be very obvious to you that these two match. But you still have to make a case to a jury. And all these questions in here that seem like they're busy work, that's the kind of presentation you might go through with a jury. You're not going to stand up as a lip print expert, an expert in chiloscopy, and say, this print matches this print. You see, because they look the same. Anyone could do that. That doesn't sound like I'm any kind of scientific expert. I'm going to tell you specific things. I'm going to describe line number 1, mark number 1, as a line that bifurcates 5 centimeters from the bottom of the print. The bifurcation is 3 centimeters long, and the overall groove veers to the right about midway through the print. You can see the same pattern exists on this one. So I'm not just saying they look alike, because that sounds like an opinion. I'm going to describe features. I'm going to describe this groove and how it matches that one. The reason those are numbered is because those numbers correspond to the numbers on the lab sheet here. 1 through 4. In complete sentences, you'll describe how each of those things do match up. And then you'll do the same thing for the Pepsi can. Okay? So the matches will look like this. Now, what if somebody else happens to have those same 4 grooves? You need to prove to me that the other suspects don't match. And that's what this part is illustrating. This is the exclusion part. How many things have to be different to exclude the person?
1.
One thing. If they have a groove here and that one found at the scene of the crime isn't there, can't be a match. Okay? If one thing is different, they can be excluded. So all these lines you see out here are excluding these people as possibly leaving that print. So if I have a mark or a special groove over here on the right side of this print, I'm going to look at this one in the same location. Do I see that groove? No, I do not. I'm going to then draw an arrow between those two indicating that this point does not, Tyler, head up please, does not match this point. Get it? And then I'm also going to exclude this person from having left that print because I already know it was somebody else. I'm going to say that this point does not line up with this point. Now, you might notice, because I just did this as a quick sample, you might notice that some of these are bogus. I didn't make a good comparison because, like, look at this point here. This is in the middle of this print, right? And look at what it goes to, this point here. That's not in the middle of the print. That's on the right-hand side. So that's not a good comparison. You see what I mean? I'd want to compare the middle of this with the middle of that. Or the left side of this with the left side of that. So make sure when you draw your arrows, you're not just making stuff up. All you got to do is find one thing that's different and connect it with an arrow. Every single print then will have 2 lines running away. 2 lines. If it doesn't match either of the crime scene prints, both lines are exclusion lines. Okay? If it does match one of the prints, like this one matches this one, then one of the lines is going to be the matching line, and the other line is going to be the exclusion line. Get it? So there'll be 2 for each one. Remember that the matching lines end with what? I'll repeat that. The matching lines end with what? 4 arrows and 4 numbers, just like this. So this would be a match. Okay? So when you're done, you'll have 2 going away from each one. And like I said, okay, this is kind of big here, but this would then go off and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'd number each of those. And I'd do the same thing on this end to show that that one matches. It's going to get a little messy in there. I know. It gets a little crowded. Strongly recommend you use a pencil for that. So this part of the lab shows me whether the lip print matched. The next part shows me if the lipstick matched, if it was the same brand. Okay? You can do this part as your rest of your group is working on this part. Just pull off that back page. That's why I printed it separately like that. And what we know is that each of our 8 suspects, we recovered lipstick from them that appeared to be the same color as was found on the can. And we know that lipstick has a whole bunch of potential ingredients. I didn't make this up, by the way. All of this stuff, everything from castor oil to paraffin to polyparaben to BHT, mica, titanium dioxide, butyl stearate, all these things are ingredients that are actually found in lipstick. There's a ton. Surprising how much stuff is in there. So what we do to compare, to find out if that suspect's lipstick was the one found on the can, is we do a process called gas chromatography. Now you did ink chromatography. We used liquid to divide up the substance into colors. In gas chromatography, we actually separate it into individual chemicals that can be identified. And you've seen this on CSI. They recover some substance at the scene of the crime, some white paste, and they put it into the device, and they don't know what it is yet, and the device kicks out this little printout, a graph or something that shows you all the different chemicals that were found. Fluoride, calcium, you know, all these different chemicals. And then they put that into the computer, and the computer compares it. And it comes up with, oh, all those chemicals are found in algicide, remember our algae killer? Or found in Crest toothpaste. And they find out what the match is. Okay? Well, what we've done here is, this is the analysis for the Pepsi can lipstick. These were the chemicals found in that lipstick. Head up, Ruben. And then each of the 8 suspects, their lipstick was also analyzed, and these were the chemicals present in their lipstick. So what we're going to do now is just fill in these 2 columns to find out, do these chemicals match these chemicals? How many things have to be different to exclude that person? 1. So as I go through here, I look at the list, castor oil, I check that off, because this is the Pepsi can, I'm doing Pepsi first here. Whatever that stearate thing is, I check that off. Candela wax, check that off. The O1, lanolin comes next, okay, and I just keep going down the list and checking things off. Now, based on that check pattern, who matches? Okay, if you said suspect 7, you are right. Because you notice that they have an X, every place I have an X. And every place I have a space, they have a space. If one thing is different, if I had an X here and they didn't, then it can't match that person. Is it possible that more than one suspect's pattern could match that found on the Pepsi can? Yes?
Yes.
How is that possible? They had the actual lipstick, same kind, same brand. It's just like the ink chromatography. So after you do the Pepsi column, then you do the same thing for the Diet Coke. And you find out whose lipstick matches which one. This is the chromatography. And make sure that you answer this question here with your results about the chromatography. This is all about the lip print. This is about the chromatography. Yet,